This is Derek Lockhart, and this is my final for Honors Music and Society. This is the compare and contrast of two sets. So set one is Igor Stravinsky's The Rite of Spring versus Verdi's Pace Pace Mio Dio. Okay. Now for the time and location, I have for Stravinsky's, he performed on the 29th of May in 1913 in Paris, France. And Stravinsky was born in 1882 and passed in 1971. I can assume that was also in Russia, if I'm sure. Verdi, he performed, or it was performed or premiered for the first time, the 10th of November, 1862 in St. Petersburg, Russia. And Giuseppe Verdi, if I said his name right, was born in 1813 and passed in 1901. On a societal context, I'm doing the Stravinsky column first. And going down, is his ballet reflects a preoccupation with primitivism, tapping into the tensions of a rapidly modernizing world. Europe in 1913 was on the brink of World War I, and the Rite of Spring kind of reflected the unrest and the energy of the time. Now, next I have for Stravinsky was the pre-World War tension and the rapid industrialization and modernism were shaping the art and the culture, which impacted the music, of course. Next, I said that the ballet reflects a return to primal pagan rituals, contrasting the modernity with ancient traditions, in a sense that reflected in the way that the society impacted the music, in a sense. Now, my musical language, it was dissonant harmonies, irregular rhythms, and complex orchestration, which was unsettling. The music is visceral and percussive and primal, intentionally unsettling in a sense. And the instrumentation is different regarding a lot of instruments that are more than a traditional orchestra. From what I saw in the video, there were loads of instruments with instruments that had the muzzle or the mute that was on them, such as for trumpets or for other brass instruments. And the musical significance, I would say it radically broke away from romanticism and classical traditions. Next, it was a milestone in the 20th century music and influenced modernism and film music as well. Now, the interpretation, I said this piece feels raw and wild and has influence of chaos and instinct. But overall, that's Stravinsky's. Now, tapping into Verdi's piece as well as the comparisons as well. Starting with the societal context. His operas often reflected the political and emotional struggles of the Italian people during the movement of Italian unification. Pace Pace itself is about personal suffering and divine forgiveness. Now, the comparison is both pieces have an unconventional flow and design to them. Next was Italy was undergoing unification, which I kind of preset before. So the themes of fate, suffering, and emotion on the individual level resonated with a politically and socially turbulent area. Now, Verdi's operas often carried nationalist and emotional weight for Italian audiences. Next was the comparison where I had was Verdi uses traditional harmonic and melodic language to heighten drama, while Stravinsky deliberately breaks tradition to create something visceral and primal, in a sense. That's a comparison because both of them did something in their music to enlarge what the message or the theme that they were trying to say. Next, the musical language. So for musical language, I had is the lyrical or expressive melody over rich harmonic support, and the traditional romantic air structures, dramatic and emotional vocal lines, accompanied by orchestral swells. The instrumentation seems to be a traditional orchestra, yet led by a composer as well as a single singer. And the musical significance, the mastery of the aria, emotional intensity, and vocal expression. And then this defined Italian opera and humanized characters with deep psychological realism to reflect, obviously, real depictions of people. Next I had was, this piece is more emotional overall. The overall drama of this piece connects deeper. Next we have set 2, that's right at 5 minutes, so that's good. Next we have set 2, which is comparing Unsuk Chin's Twinkle Twinkle Little Star off of her album, I can assume, not album, but off of her grand piece, which would be Puzzles and Games. Comparing and contrasting with Astor Piazzolla's Milonga del Angel. Okay, now let's start with Chin's. Now for the time and location, this piece was premiered on the 23rd of April in 2016 in Hamburg, Germany. Chin was born in Seoul, South Korea in 1961, and she's still alive today. Next, we're gonna go with the societal context. I'll go with the comparisons as well as the contrast for Chin in this one. So both artists being alive in the same period of time allow for each composition to be impacted similarly by the changing world. Radical yet traditional reflects in each of the composer's styles, nuevo tango and non-tune music, obviously Chin. Chin's work reflects a postmodern globalized society where Western classical traditions meet with experimentation. Next was the musical language for the comparison. Both pieces hone in on what each composer has learned / derived from their training as well as the environment. And a little bit more of the reason why I said that is because Piazzolla pulled his information and pulled his from him being in New York, him being in the United States. That's predominantly where the jazz impact and influence helped him develop and create Nuevo Tango. And as well as where Chin grew up and where she studied, the way in the art form in which that she learned is a little bit more European based rather than Asian based, where she's from South Korea, and who she studied up under is how she learned what she learned. Next is Chin uses extended techniques, clusters, and prepared piano effects. And next, this version of the children's song breaks down the familiar sounds to dissonant and unpredictable sounds. Next is the comparison between the both and the musical significance, the introduction of new styles and techniques of musical expression, and both are and were criticized in their origin. For Chin, this challenges the simplicity of music since this isn't regular music. This music is innovative and shows the potential exploration. Interpretation, this piece feels distorted yet interesting to understand the concept and methodology behind this piece. Next I have is the Piazolla. This piece was from 1965 and the part of an album called Cuatro Estaciones Porteñas in Buenos Aires, Argentina. Piazzolla was born in 1921 and passed in 1992. Next, Piazzolla, in the societal context, Piazzolla composed during a politically charged time in Argentina and introduced Nuevo Tango, mixing jazz with classical tango music in defiance to musical norms. Next, for the musical language, features lyrical melodies, slow tempo, and an emotionally elegant and balanced progression, which kind of reflect the impact from jazz. Now, the musical significance is this music is pivotal to making tango music to listen to rather than to just dance. This caused or led to the evolution of the style, and the interpretation of this piece is very emotional as well as deeply rooted. Another thing that I found that was interesting about each were the instrumentation. Obviously, we know, and we talked about in class about Unsuk Chin. She kind of created and composed the way that the music looked, or the score of the music, in one setting for all. And Piazzolla used instrument that I can't put my finger on right now, and it was different. It kind of was similar to an accordion, but obviously wasn't. And he was very good and very skilled and very talented at playing at it, and he needed and had a particular way of playing that. But this is my final for Honors Music and Society, so appreciate it.